Welcome back, gals and ghouls, to the All Hallows Eve Halloween special of Helloween. And we've got some friends from Halloween's past, as well as some new additions to the Halloween special this year. Now, of course, old skeleton pirate Jack is back, and he's all lit up and ready for some fun, and he's got some returning vintage Halloween candy, because what's Halloween without some candy? If you have ever watched the Garfield special, then you know what I'm talking about. So let's take a look at our old friend here, Pirate Pumpkin Jack, and he looks very ridiculous and ghoulish as he's all lit up with a goofy grin, and he's got his pirate patch over his one eye there. But I think the one thing that really makes him great is he has that evil curly Q mustache with his crazy grin and buck teeth. So he's very ridiculous. He's like a 19th century villain, like in the Old West, but he's like a pirate and he's a pumpkin, and he's just all these ridiculous things rolled into one that don't really make any sense, and it's what makes him fantastic. Now let's take a look at some of this really ghoul vintage Halloween candy. I always like to bring this out every year just because I think it's really, really neat. And we have the creature from the Black Lagoon. Of course, we have Frankenstein, and then in the style of Vincent Price, we have Dracula, of course. Now, there are a couple more of these. There is the Mummy and the Wolfman, that I do not have. And if you're wondering what's in these little packages, believe it or not, there is still candy in these things after 30 or 40 years. Pop this little top open, and the reason it says Monster on there is because they're candy cigarettes. So you're a monster for giving these out. Just kidding. But yeah, no, this was vintage Halloween candy back in the day, and I remember getting this quite a few times when I would go out trick-or-treating, and I always thought they were neat in their little boxes. Some of them would be shaped, there was different variations of them, and they'd be shaped like one little piece, shaped like a mummy or a Frankenstein or a Dracula, but those are pretty hard to find nowadays. Now this fella here is new, and I don't remember exactly what he's from, but he's really neat. He's like a little line of monster figures, and you have this like orc or ghoul here, and he's really deadlifting, right? Because his arms have come out of his sockets. Get it? Deadlifting, ha ha ha. And yeah, but he's really working himself to the bone and giving it all he's giving it all he's got here. But unfortunately, it is to no avail. And then I have these really, really two ghoulish vintage Halloween masks here. And I believe they're both Ben Cooper. And then this one here is especially interesting and strange because it's kind of like a knockoff C-3PO mask with the green and the blue and the white. So very, very odd. And it almost kind of reminds me of like Battlestar Galactica or something. It's a very odd colored choice for the robot, or maybe even from the movie Metropolis. Kind of looks like that a little bit, but really neat. I remember year after year going out for Halloween, always having the plastic masks and the smocks that you'd go out, and they were very difficult to breathe in. And then this one here, I believe this is supposed to be a Gundam. So isn't that cool? Really nice paint. Very nice coloration, good design. It was probably a very, very cool looking costume back in the day. And yeah, it is very neat. Very cool, very cool. And now this is something that I've shown in years before, but I never got them working before. And this is a vintage Halloween pin from the 1980s or so, I'd have to imagine. There's no date on this, but it's definitely old, and you put batteries in it, and I could never get it to work, but we have Count Dracula on the front there, and just look at that amazing artwork with the ears pointed up and the blood red eyes and the fangs. That's a really vicious and spooky looking version of Dracula. But we just flip this little switch here, And stare into Dracula's hypnotic gaze, and you will become one of my minions of the undead. So very cool indeed that we've got him and his eyes blinking. I thought that maybe it would make a sound effect, but that's just air for the electronics and the battery inside, so wouldn't heat up when you're wearing it, and possibly the batteries could burst or explode. So very neat. I really do wish it would have made sound. That would have been even more ghoulish. And then last but not least, these are some spooky little fellows that I've just picked up recently and just learned about. And these were made in 1967 by Topps. There's very little information on them. I wanted to do a whole special on them, but not really enough to do their own complete episode. And they're called Rubber Uglies, also sometimes branded as teachers' pets. Because in school, you would have them in class, and they were called teachers' pets or rubber uglies because the teachers would confiscate them and be in their desk, and therefore they would be, get it, the teachers' pets, even though if they didn't want them, because they would confiscate them from everyone in class. And it's funny that they have a lot of just regular names for these crazy monsters, so that was just like a big joke on everyone you went to school with. Like this one, I believe. Check out this spooky, whatever the heck it's supposed to be. It looks like a mutated frog almost. You got this goofy tongue and the eyes, and they're very jiggly. They're like those little finger puppet jigglies that I reviewed so many years ago. And he's got these hairy arms and claws, and a nice coloration, the green and the orange and the wacky legs. But this one's name is Florence. Isn't that ridiculous that its name is Florence? So if you had a friend named Florence, I don't think they'd be very flattered by that. And then this one kind of looks like Cthulhu or something. Check out this spooky monster octopus. All these crazy tentacles and that big elephant or snail like nose and the eyes. And this one's name is James. So if you had anyone named James, I don't think they would personally like being associated with this ugly little fellow right here. Spaghetti Monster. And then, last but not least, at least out of the ones that I know their names for, this one is named Iris, which makes sense, and that's a name you don't really hear very often. Of course, because of the big red eye. It looks like a mutated plant. Has a little suction cup base. I don't know how well. It does stick fairly well. And the feathers, the vines on the top, but it's the same thing, except a different coloration on the back. But very creepy. These are so imaginative. They're just these crazy ideas and concepts thrown together, like not your typical monster or something that would look streamlined, but just these really far out ideas. And then there's these goofy little critters. Look at this little fellow here. He doesn't look that spooky. He's just like a little bug with 6 legs and a tiny little tail, and very goofy eyes. And looks like he has a smile almost. He's smiling. And that big pointy nose. And they're hollow underneath, so I think you could actually, if you wanted to, you could put your finger in there and maybe like fling them across the room. And I had something like this growing up. I don't remember, but it looked kind of more like this one. Except not with the goofy eyes. It was just more boring, and it was kind of like translucent blue. So they made these up and through the 80s and everything, too. This is another guy very similar to that. Just some goofy little cretin with his tail and his eyes and the arms. Very goofy, but still very, very slimy and spooky and creepy. Ha 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 ha. Well, alright, gals and ghouls, that's going to do it for this year's Helloween. So I hope all of you out there have a great and spooktacular Halloween. And until next year, for more tricks and treats and surprises and scares, stay tuned and happy Halloween!
Hey guys, if you liked the video that you just watched, don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, and you can follow me at Facebook at King of Retro or Twitter at #8ByteBrian. See you next time!